It's something that I teach all human design analysts, is that when you look at a chart, remember the child. When you look at somebody's chart, think about their childhood. When a projector sits down beside me and I would look at a projector's chart, the first thing I would realize is that from the moment they came into the world, they were conditioned away from their nature, period. I mean, no chance, none. The vast majority of humanity are generators. The combination of your parents was most likely to produce one. That energy is the most common energy system on the planet. Projectors come into a world that is dominated by generator function. They just are. And of course, because of that, they're never treated according to who they are. Because they are open and because they don't have those attributes consistently themselves, they tend to be perfect examples of energy children, sometimes super energy children, particularly when they're young. That changes, by the way, by the time they get to being teenagers. They tend to flatten out then, and they tend to seem to be undermotivated and so forth and so on, suffer from bouts of exhaustion and not being able to do things. But the reality is that the moment they come into the world, they are conditioned, and they are conditioned to be manifestors. You know, clean up your room, be good, do this, do that. I mean, everybody is telling you what to do from the moment that you come into the world, and nobody is saying, you're a projector and we're going to have to invite you into this dance. You know? Well, nobody's doing that. You come into the world and they immediately condition you to be a manifester, and they immediately condition you to be a manifesting generator. In other words, they pump you full of juice. Now, there's some place inside of you that knows that's a lie, because you know it's inconsistent, because you go through the crash of losing the access to the energy. But when you're very young, in the first 7 years of your life, this conditioning is extraordinary. Look at something. All projectors have an open sacral. 70% of the world is sacral, the rest have an open sacral. I'm like you, manifestors don't have a defined sacral. Reflectors, because it's all open, don't have a defined sacral. Now look, the sacral center is about work. Work. Right? Slaves, work. Builders. You know, these are what generators do. Generators build things, you know, endlessly. You know, they're always putting their energy to work, because if they don't put their energy to work, they suffer. So the world is a working world. Everybody's busy doing something. This is a working world, and it's brought to us by generators. Now, of course, we come into the world with our open sacral center, and the generator is basically saying to us, you work harder than us, because that's the conditioning. Be a super worker. I mean, there's nothing I've hated more in my life than the idea of work. You know, if you come into this life with an open sacral center, the idea of work, it isn't about that you don't work or you don't end up working, but the concept of work, just to begin with, is an unfair concept. Why do I have to work? Why is it necessary? And of course, that's a great thing for all projectors to hold in them, because the answer is, you're not supposed to be doing the work. You're not. You're not. It doesn't mean you do nothing in your life. It means you take on a different role in this life, and you can only get to that role when you recognize who you are, so that you can then understand who is correct for you. Everything in your life is about the other. Everything. I mean, everything. And when I say the other, I don't just mean an intimate partner or children. I mean the other. That whole milieu of yours that's around you. Your associations, your friends, family, work, colleagues. It's all about the other. And if you do not understand them, you cannot guide them. And if you do not understand how they operate, you're not going to know which ones are correct for you and how you can deal with them. And this is my point about the intellectuality. In other words, the projector's journey, because in fact the adult projector is so deeply conditioned that the first step for them is not about the possibility that tomorrow a major invitation will show up in your life and you can get that sudden aha. But it's about preparing them to fulfill their role. It's not important that the generator knows how a projector works, but boy, is it essential for a projector to know how a generator works. Because that's what you're taking in. And there's where your wisdom can be. Your capacity to be able to guide the way the building goes. Now, of course, that's work, but it's a different quality of work. And so the whole process begins with your receptivity to going a step further than saying, aha, this is interesting, and going into the step in which you can begin to explore intellectually to begin with who you are. And begin to see where you're conditioned, because that's the gateway to your wisdom and your freedom from negative conditioning.